Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you on Friday, June the 11th. The year's 2021. Let's talk trading. It's time for the weekly wrap up. This video is for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. And also, I'll just remind you guys once again so you can think about it over the weekend. Your risk management. Don't lose any more in any one particular trade than you're willing to lose. In other words, place your bet. Your bet is whatever your risk is. And if your stop loss gets hit, that's it. You lose your bet. Don't lose more than your bet. Okay, for the weekly, all gaps filled. So hopefully all you weekly opening gap traders were paid off. We are 44 pips below the weekly open as we're coming to the close of Friday's session. 93 pips off the high and 24 off the low. I know it sounds like a weather report, right? And you can see here on the multimeter, the month is in the red. We've had 2 weeks in a row in the red. So it looks like the pound wants to go down as dollar must be strengthening. You can see here at 4110.6, we fell out of the weekly opening range. I'm sorry, actually, yeah, the weekly opening range, because this is the first day of the week's range right here. And we also fell out of the monthly range. And we're right now in the lower wick zone of yesterday's candle. The weekly open, the yearly open, we're 454 pips above it. But as you can see here, the rest were all down. Inside bar from 3 days ago, you can see here, we went through the bottom at 141.20, 24 pips below that bottom at the time. There was lots of inside bar action this week too. As far as the daily range, we're sitting at 90 pips at the moment. Since we're only 1 pip off the bottom, it could be expanded. We took out the daily pivot a few hours ago, more than a few, but you can see here we've got 3, 6, 7 red H1 candles in a row. And we crisscrossed right through that weekly open. You see we closed below it, went above it, and then dropped right back below it. That weekly open was right there at the launch pad in the 40s, 41.40. Green rats, I don't know if you're going to get the feast today or not. We will have to wait and see. Pivot trading plan. Not sure why that was on the daily. For some reason the computer froze for a second there. You can say near the pivot the bias was long. Well, we hit the pivot and it fell down. You can see we're working on the 4th red H4 candle in a row. And at the monthly, we haven't missed a pivot since 2014. On the weekly, We missed a pivot in May at 39.36, right there. And in April, at 37.82, right here. That's for this year. And then finally on the daily, we took out the pivot, as you can see. So we still have a missed pivot. We've got 3 missed pivots this year. One in May, one in April, and one in February. As mentioned earlier, we're now in the lower wick zone from the previous day. You can see in and out of that upper wick zone. Now we're in the lower. And the ranges for the week: high minus low 117. This is pretty much at the bottom. Not much range this week at all. High minus previous high, we didn't break. Low minus the previous low, you see we actually got 10 pips below last week's previous low, or last week's low. High minus close 93, close minus low 25. That's for the rat traders who look at it on the weekly level. Today, 90 pips, we're at 49 percentile, so pretty much right in the middle compared to last week. It's 105. You can see that these ranges are definitely being compressed. High minus closed 87, so the red rats were feasting. Right now, close minus low is only 2 pips off the bottom. So green rats are getting ready to possibly eat some cheese. High minus open 14 pips. So buy zone traders only got to grab a few on the upside, but open minus low 76. The buy zone traders out of the short zone were rewarded handsomely today. And that's one thing that I've been noticing over the past week or so. It seems like the pound, sometime during the New York session, is finding its way back to the open, and then it just moves away from the open. And usually when I'm looking at the chart, the range is somewhere between 50 and 70. And so it usually has about another 20 pips or so to go. And since price is near the open and it wants to range, it has to range away from the open, either to the upside or to the downside. And so that's what I've noticed, and that's what I'm starting to trade off of, giving me a bias. Even though sometimes you shouldn't have a bias, but because what will happen is if you have a bias long, you'll look for things to tell you to buy, to confirm that bias, where there might be something telling you don't go long, you should really be going short. But since you're not looking for it, you don't see it. And then after you get slammed and get your head handed to you in a trade, or just triggers a stop loss, you look back, oh, I should have seen that. So what you might want to do is every time that happens, put it, make a note somewhere. So when you start your trading session, you just read over those notes and it'll tell you what to look for. And that's just something that you can only do for yourself, because in fact, I was thinking about making a video of all the things you should look for, but I really think that I can tell you some of the things I look for, but on second thought, it's one of those things where you almost have to learn through experience, because I can tell you something and then you can hear it or read it, you can even see it, but it's not going to stick until maybe it happens to you. And then it's like, oh yeah, TheRumpledOne said that. Now I remember. Yeah, well, but that's kind of like remembering too late. So it's just something to be aware of. And that's why some of the traders say take good notes or journal as you trade. And in that way, you build up a reference. In fact, I don't know what everybody out there likes to look at and read on a regular recurring basis. But one of the things I get is Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic newsletter. And he talks about journaling a whole lot. And some of the references, they say how a bunch of the famous people journaled. And you can read their journals and see what they were going through and how they came to their decisions. Personally, I stick it into my notes on my charts, or I build an indicator. That's how I know. I let the computer do the looking for me. And that's like on the price near indicator. So it's like, oh, if price is near these levels, I better pay attention. It looks like price wants to toggle with the 141 again, have a little wrestling match. We'll see what happens right there. And we had one yesterday at the 141. And this was the news that came out yesterday. So you can see here, this was a huge return bar. Right here, it was also an outside bar. That's why it's got that magenta color to it. But price, any of these big bars, price usually will return to the open of that big bar. That's just a phenomenon that I've seen happen. You can see here you have this big red bar. Price came all the way down here, but it still returned to take out that open. In fact, yesterday when Walmart and I was trading, I called out price would go back to 175, and you can see it did. And then today I was looking for price to get back to this open right here, which was about, I just call it 141 even, and it did. And on the daily chart here, the highest low, lowest high, it's just something that another thing I've observed. It's kind of simple when you plot it on the chart. And you, once again, let the computer do it for me. Right here, you can see this line at 141.63. That was the lowest or the highest low at the time. But you can see here what's been happening, all the action around that area. And you can see the lowest high of price broke out. Now, some people go, well, that's hindsight. But it's not. It's something that you can plot currently, and you can use it on just about any time frame. And it's a real simple trade, especially for those traders who can't sit in front of their computer all day or don't want to. And the other one is we have the highest close, lowest close also there. And that is almost the same as the highest open, lowest open, because it usually happens. They're usually about the same, but see, that's the highest close, and the lowest open here was actually slightly below it on a little gap. But these are the kind of trades you can set up in advance. And yes, as price moves on, these numbers will change. But you can still take those trades when they present themselves, and hopefully they'll be profitable for you. So that's going to wrap up the week. I hope you had a profitable week. I hope you have a fun and safe weekend, and hope to see you back here next week. And when you sit down at your trading platform, as always, remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is TheRumpledOne, over and out.